Welcome to the Grace Story Podcast, where inspiring stories are brought to life. This podcast is made possible by Grace College and Seminary, located on the shores of Winona Lake in the great state of Indiana. I'm your host, Dr. Drew Flam. This is the Grace Story Podcast. Today we have Corey Smith and Noah Guntle on the podcast. Noah is a 2019 graduate of Grace College with a major in elementary education. Corey Smith is a 2004 graduate of Grace College and co-founder of Smith Academy in Fort Wayne, which is the charter school Noah also graduated high school from. So Noah and Corey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
I was, Noah, able to read your story in the Grace Story magazine. Thank you so much for sharing. Give me a little bit background on your family and then how you ended up at Smith Academy.
All right, so I am one of 7 children. I'm the third youngest, and so all of us were being homeschooled by my mom. When it was just me and my 2 younger siblings still going through homeschool with my mom, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her condition started to wear down on just her physical abilities, and so I forget what, it must have been 2012, that's when Cameron Smith, Corey's brother, moved down the street. My mom was she likes going on walks, and she happened to see the sign, and there's a whole bunch of advertisement out in the lawn. She starts talking to him, and her wish was that my younger brother and I would attend, and understanding that that would alleviate any burden on her, we decided to go with it. At first, everyone tells us at first we would beg her, no, we don't want to go to another school, we want to stay home. But yeah, I'm very glad that we started to attend there. And so my youngest sister went to one of my friend's moms. She homeschools, and so my mom was able to just take care of herself, even though she was always taking care of other people. So
That's awesome. That's neat that your mom was able to find a place that couldn't replace her in any way, shape, or form, but could continue what she had started. So tell us about your experience at Smith Academy. What did you enjoy about it? What did you learn? Any good stories about Corey that we can pass on to all of his alumni friends?
It was very different. Just the structure was, I really enjoyed the structure and just being at a class time, because at home school could last all day. If I didn't get an assignment, I could last. But being able to do all my homework in that type of setting and whatever assignments there were, it was very beneficial, as well as just being in a school with other people besides my siblings. That kind of helped, kind of helped get me used to working with people who didn't believe the same thing I believed, didn't think the same way I thought, just weren't exactly my family biologically, but it was just very nice with that transition. And looking back, it was just a God thing too. Like everything from that point on, as horrible as it was, with my mom getting sick, just transitioning to Smith Academy was very beneficial for me, and that kind of helped me understand what I can do for others too. Not just the school can do for me, but what I could do for the students who didn't grow up the same way I did or in the same circumstances. There were a lot of good friends. Unfortunately, they had come and gone. There's a lot of students who just wanted to move on. I was like, no, why don't you stay? There's benefit in here. And I feel like that was kind of my role too, is with not being prompted by I keep saying number 2. I called Corey number 2 all the time because it was 3 Smiths, and so Thomas Smith 1, Corey Smith 2, Cameron Smith.
So
3.
Dad's number 1.
That's right. Dad's always number 1.
Mom's number 1 though, right?
That's
I mean,
right,
let's be honest.
Dad's 1.5.
Yeah, there you go.
So I guess in a way I was kind of a voice to help students see the benefit of the school too. I really liked how they encouraged us to get homework and anything done that was due that day done while at school, because the resources are there, the teachers are there to help with that extended day program. And so students could go home, whether it be at 5 until 5 or when school gets out, and just have fun at home or wherever else they go, because all the resources are there, and we're encouraged to stay and just finish whatever goal we had set out for that day, and that happened every day.
So Corey, tell me a little bit about this, kind of how you set up your school day and how you set up Smith Academy in general to function and run.
Sure. First of all, our three pillars are scholarship, character, and service learning. And so everything that we do is really focused on obviously educating our kids academically, but we really want to teach them to have some, an instinct of service so that they are looking to take care of other people and looking beyond just themselves. And also just displaying strong character. And so we have a traditional 6-period school day as far as the class periods, but there's a whole lot of things that are not traditional about our school beyond that. So that's about all that's traditional. We start off each morning after our breakfast time. We start off with a morning meeting. And so I talk to the whole school and do a character lesson in the morning. We talk about some other things, from time to time, current events and some other things like that during that morning meeting. But that's the time to get all the guys together. We are an all-boys school, by the way. So that's the time to get all the guys together and kind of get everybody on one page and, get started on the same foot at the beginning of the day. Then we go through our regular academic day, but the last period of the day is an academic support period. And so that's the first step that we take, kind of like Noah was talking about, to make sure guys get their work done that day. And so they've got a period where they're just working on their classwork from that day. Any assignments they had that day that are not finished, they've got time to work on those. Our extended day then is mandatory, so everybody stays for an extra 45 minutes, which they love. But honestly, it is a good time because that's when we have clubs. And so everybody's involved in a club throughout the school year, a couple clubs throughout the school year. And so they get to do some extracurriculars regardless of who they are, what grade they're in. Everybody's in clubs. But if their work is not done, then instead of going to their club, they go to the academic room and work on the work. And so, kind of like Noah's saying, a lot of times guys, of course, would rather just go to club and not do their work and put their work off for another day. But that's one of the things that we try to teach them is some time management and, hey, get done today what needs to be done today. And, wow. Then tomorrow you start fresh. And honestly, in public schools and in traditional schools, a lot of times that's where our young men fail, is they get behind in work. And then the next day they're a little more behind, and the following day and it just snowballs until they're so far behind that they fail a class. And so that's one of the things we do to try to keep our guys on track so that they don't fall too far behind. So that's kind of the structure of our school day and the purpose behind it.
Noah, what clubs were you involved? Did you actually get to go to clubs? Okay, you got to go to clubs. Good, we got that. What clubs were you involved with?
We had drumline, art. There's only a few that piqued my interest because that's what I really like to do is art and music. And drumline, I think, switched to like music club, and some of them kind of varied, I believe, over time, just based on resources like, hey, we have new things, or I think with the fluctuating of students throughout the year, clubs kind of shifted a little bit. But for the most part, art, drumline, or music, and I think that's it.
Good. Now, you decided to come to Grace College. What was it that piqued your interest about Grace, and then more specifically to enter the field of elementary education?
So when I was still going to Smith Academy, I was playing homeschool soccer on the side just because time allowed it. So after school, I'd play soccer when it was the season. And both of my coaches were Grace graduates from here, and I really liked, man, they're really good soccer players. That's what I want to do. So I came here specifically for soccer, and I talked to the coach, and I really like math, so I talked to Dr. Farwell. But then understanding that I didn't have the experience enough to make any traction, that kind of fell apart, and I was like, I tried to find some other way of, what else can I do here? It's a really pretty campus. I really like the atmosphere. What can I do? And then that's when I started to think about a lot of people I knew came from Grace. And I didn't realize until later that Corey had come to Grace too. And then I started to think about what I've learned over the years. And then things started to click where the the peers I had talked to and the younger students that I had helped and tried to mentor throughout my years in high school, and how I really enjoyed, especially one-on-one, I really liked helping students. Like when I was done with school and they need help, I'd see what I could do to help them, not give them the answers, of course, but I really enjoyed seeing students have that aha moment for themselves and not me just simply giving them the answer. And so I started to think, well, what can I do with that? I can do education. So I started to explore the education department. And then that's when I had met Dr. Owen before, but she had met me freshman year of high school. I didn't realize it because she had met me once. 3 or so years passed by, and then I visit my wife now. She was attending before me. I had stopped in on one of her classes, and she saw me and goes, "I'm so glad you made it. You're here." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I started to think, oh, she's that lady I met when I was in freshman in high school. And she just had a very outgoing spirit. And I just that was early on before I think that was during when I was in IPFW or possibly high school. But anywho, long story short, just seeing what I had accomplished, not just for me academically at Smith Academy, but what I had done with my friends and my peers and younger peers too, it really helped me understand what I believe God was leading me towards.
Gotcha. Cool. And Corey, you also were an education major at Grace, correct?
That's right.
And did you start that? I mean, what made you interested in Grace College and then piqued your interest in education?
Yeah. So in high school, I really looked at engineering and accounting, thought I wanted to do something, in one of those two fields. And my dad is an educator, career educator. He's been an administrator for a long time. And so I didn't just want to do what Dad did. And by about my senior year in high school, I realized I'm going to be a teacher. I really liked education. I liked, like that field. And kind of like Noah said, you just enjoy working with kids. And so I knew when I came to Grace that I was going to be in education. And what attracted me to Grace was, honestly, I played basketball in high school, and so Coach K and at the time Coach John Ye came to a few games, and of the schools, I mean, I was highly recruited. Everybody was after me. Luckily, Grace landed me. Okay, maybe not everybody, but of the couple of schools that came to visit, I really appreciated Coach K and Coach Ye. Just the genuine kind of conversations we had. They weren't, just after what I could do with them, do for them on the court, but they really were interested in my education, interested in what I wanted to do with my education and so forth. So really enjoyed that. And then, of course, campus visits, enjoyed my time here on campus and got to spend some time with guys on the team and things like that. And so basketball was a big part of it. And that's kind of what attracted me to school here initially. Then obviously, getting on campus, spending some time with people and with professors was really, really helpful to help me make the decision. So that's what got me here. Education, I was one of those guys who was an ed major from the beginning to the end, never really wavered or switched because I knew that's really what the Lord had for me. And so I'm really glad. Had an incredible education here. I mean, the education department does a fantastic job. And, Noah talked about Dr. Owen. She was a professor here before she was the dean. And so she's one of those professors who's very practical. And, textbooks can help a lot, but just her practicality and her experience was really helpful for me to understand and think through what the classroom is really going to be like and how do you apply these things from the textbook to real life and what you're going to see in real life. And so, that was really, really incredible, really beneficial. So my transition from college to the classroom was, I think, a lot smoother because we had a lot of practical experience and a lot of kind of insight on how you apply these concepts in real life.
And then you went on to teach in the public school system for 6-7 years, and then the opportunity to start Smith Academy came about. Tell me about how'd the idea for Smith Academy develop, and then the execution of that idea. You and your father and how did you guys come up with this and then put it together?
Well, it's pretty interesting. My brother was also an educator in Fort Wayne. And so he had really been thinking about, my brother Cameron had been thinking about school. He found himself doing a lot more character education than academic education with the elementary kids he was working with, and just had thought to himself it'd be nice if there was a school that could really focus on character as much as other things and kind of teach from a holistic standpoint. And so he started writing down ideas and putting stuff together, unbeknownst to my dad and I, really. And at Sunday dinner one time, threw it out there on the table to us and told us about what he'd been thinking about and his plans. And we thought, yeah, okay, well, we're in. So that's how it came about. It was my brother's vision and his dream. And so man, we just got started working on it. And it's really interesting. And we're so blessed that, we were in the position we were. It generally takes charter schools several years to get started. And my brother kind of talked to us the beginning of a school year, about August. So about September, October, we really started working on getting our school started. And the people that were helping us get school started and helping us get things together told us you should be looking for, a year, 2 years from now to get started. And we really felt like the Lord wanted us to start the following school year in 2012. And so we started working September of 2011. And by August 2012, we opened the doors and had our first year of school in 10 months, really, in less than a year.
Wow.
And so, again, that was one of those things where the Lord just put the right people in the right place, and He set the table for us. He put everything together for us. And so it's kind of a big dream, and the Lord put it together pretty quickly, and we were able to get a lot done in a short amount of time. And He's been with us all the way through. Grace was instrumental in that, as Grace being our authorizer. We approached Grace and asked them to authorize us. And so we were the first school that Grace authorized, first charter school that Grace authorized. And so that's another thing. Grace was not into charter schools, and they weren't interested, weren't looking to. But when we approached the college, they were willing to get behind us because they believed in what we were doing. And so the Lord's provided for us tremendously.
That's awesome. So Noah, you just graduated in 2019, but as all teachers must do, you had to go do a teaching experience in the classroom, and you chose to do that at Smith Academy. When did you do that, and what grades did you work with? And tell me a little bit about that experience.
So January 7th is when student teaching started, and took that whole all the way up to May 3rd, I believe, about that time. And what I had thought about is, I think a determining factor was also where I lived, because I commuted. I wanted somewhere locally, and I thought, where else to go than Smith Academy? And also not just because of convenience driving-wise, but also because I just wanted to be able to contribute to to the next generation that would be coming out through Smith Academy. So the grades I worked with, me and Miss Drudge, the elementary teacher, she was working with 4th and 5th grade. So it's kind of a combination, but it was only 6 students. So it was a different experience for me compared to my other peers, just because they had 28 or 20 or 30. And for me, it was 6, and it worked out with, I wasn't sure if there was a number limit I had to reach, like, oh, you can't do that because there's not that many students. But it was very unique and very rewarding to help those 6 individuals. I mainly focused on 4th grade with most of the lessons and the criteria I had to fulfill. But for a lot of it, I took control of the classroom for both grades. And I provided the Miss Drudge with all the lessons for 4th and 5th. And so it's kind of dual wielding a little bit, which was helpful just because it would help me get the behavior, just thinking about the grade levels and what background knowledge and what they will learn. It's like, oh, fifth grade's learning this, so then fourth grade, and kind of working with each other in that. But yeah, I just wanted that sense of giving back since I had gone there, helping students, and I can genuinely say if they ever got frustrated or felt just like there wasn't any hope, I could tell them there is hope without telling them I had gone there, because I didn't want them to see me as a student, but as a teacher. I could genuinely tell them there is hope. You can do this. Secretly, I did it. You can do it too, and I'm here to help you achieve whatever goal we had set out for them to achieve.
That's awesome. Rumor has it during your teaching experience, you also became famous for your dad jokes. Is this a true statement? Do you have any best dad jokes for us?
I when the time was appropriate, I would tend to crack a few jokes. Just
Corey and I are dads. The time is always appropriate for a dad joke.
Oh man, yeah, I would do that, and also crack out some accents too. I like doing accents, but I think the epitome of a dad joke that I really like is, when does a joke become a dad joke?
I don't know. When does a joke become a dad joke, Noah?
When it's apparent.
There you go.
Simple, and yet it's like, man, that is a dad joke.
Well, you just got married, and so you're gonna have hopefully a lifetime of being able to practice your dad jokes, and I'll use that one tonight at the dinner table and see if it works out for me.
It was really cool. There was a fifth grader in my student teaching experience. Sometimes at the end of the school day, some of the students would have to join in with the upper levels and have to stay after school and work on assignments, and sometimes I had to be there instead of them going up to the main room. We would help them in the classroom. And one of the students, after I cracked a joke, he said, "Mr. Guntle, you're going to make a really good dad." And it was just very out of the blue, and I was just kind of struck by that. I was like, well, thank you. Like, it was just weird the way he would just kind of react to a joke I had and have that strong of a compliment. I was like, I really appreciate that. It was just really cool to see that the compliments they would give without even being prompted, and just the encouragement they give to each other and also to the adults too.
That's awesome. Well, Corey, it's got to be rewarding to sit next to, one of the results of your work at Smith Academy. And I know the story for Smith Academy has just begun. Tell me about some of the rewarding experiences or stories that have come from your work with Smith Academy.
Certainly this guy next to me is one of them. Noah was actually our first graduate because he was in our inaugural graduating class, but he graduated in 3.5 years, so graduated a semester early. And so he was literally our first graduate. He was our valedictorian that year. And it's exciting to see him moving forward. Obviously, it was great to have him come back and student teach with us, and just seeing him, move on to the next chapter in his life. And so that's exciting. And to hear him talk about what Smith Academy meant to him is rewarding as well. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the school is seeing the diversity in the school. I was talking to somebody just recently about the fact that we really see the diversity of Fort Wayne within our school. Obviously on the boys' side, all the males, male diversity, but just racially and socioeconomically and so forth. It's cool to see those guys interact with each other and spend time with each other and get to know each other as individuals. And a lot of the stereotypes kind of are thrown by the wayside when you're spending time with a group of guys every day. And we just had our commencement a few weeks ago, and my brother actually interviewed each of the graduates, and individually, without prompting, almost every one of them mentioned something along the lines of the brotherhood that they felt and that they were going to miss when they left, Smith Academy. And so those things are rewarding. I mean, we get to see a lot of kids grow, a lot of kids, change in really good ways. And so it's exciting, rewarding to see some of that work that we put in and some of my brother's vision really come to fruition here.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things we like to do towards the end of the podcast is ask some popcorn questions. So these are kind of random, a little bit off topic, and just ways for us to get to know each of you a little bit better. So are you guys ready? You haven't been prepared with this either, so here you go. First one, I'll start with you, Corey. If you could have lunch with anyone besides Jesus, who would it be, past or present, and why?
Lunch. Man, so many interesting people. I'm gonna say lunch with. Let's have lunch with Billy Graham.
Okay.
Billy Graham. I think something that's interesting about him, and there's so many people that kind of come to mind, but something that's interesting about him is how much work he did and how really busy he was, but clearly had time to just know Jesus. And he appears to have been a good dad as well. And that's something that I juggle all the time is how do you do the work and do the things you feel like you're supposed to do, but also know Jesus and be a good dad, and be a good husband. And so somebody who had kind of a grasp of that would be interesting to talk to.
Noah can give you some dad jokes that'll help out in the dad category if you need it at all. So, Noah, how about you? What one person you'd have lunch with and why?
Besides Jesus and my wife?
Yes.
I like Corey's answer, but I can't take that. Being a sentimental guy, I know this was somewhat mentioned in the article. I would say having lunch with my mom one more time so that I could tell her, and for those who may or may not have read the article, she would keep asking us whenever she took us out on our birthdays, like, well, what do you want to do? And I'd say, I don't know. But today, if I could eat out with her one more time, I would tell her all the things I have planned and all the things I've done and completed. And so just kind of, it'd be cool to fill her in on that.
And she'd be very proud. She'd be very proud. Corey, what's one book that you recommend or gift to others? Wow. Not the Bible.
Man, all my Sunday school answers are taken. Know Jesus, know the Bible.
Trying to make you think a little bit deeper.
Jesus and the Bible, shoot. I really like a book called The Way of the Shepherd. It's a leadership book, kind of from the perspective of a shepherd. So I like that one, The Way of the Shepherd.
Cool, good one. And Noah, any book recommendations from an elementary teacher?
I'd say, I don't know, from the perspective of being an educator, I instantly went towards a book that would help other people become educators. And a book I found to be helpful, although it was a small book study, it was very enlightening. I think it was called Growing Minds. And it was knowing the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset among students and how you can, I think this book specifically talked about math and how a lot of people love math. That I mean, a lot of people might, I don't know. But it was very helpful in understanding ways to help younger kids transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Because I think a lot of people in general need that type of mindset to achieve whatever goal they have set out.
Great book by Carol Dweck. I've read that one. It's a good one. Yes, mindset. Yep, absolutely. All right, next popcorn question. Outside of job, family, or responsibilities, what are some things that you're into right now? This could be anything, okay? So this could be hobbies, these could be books, could be websites, could just be like the thing you're into right now. Could be a show, whatever it is. What's the thing you're into right now? One or two of those. Corey, you got any for us?
Bible and Jesus are the two. If those are out, man. So we just had our third boy. We got 3 boys. And so what I've been into is trying to sleep when I get a chance to. So my wife is really nice, and she usually gets up in the middle of the night and does all that stuff. But
how old's your son?
So he is 5 weeks now.
5 weeks
old. So yeah. But man, so into trying to figure that guy out again. We've got our next youngest, our middle child, is 7. So it's been 7 years since we've done this newborn thing. So I'm learning all
Are you
over
feeling
again.
those 7 years a little different?
Yeah. So a lot has changed in 7 years. So man,
How did those diaper thingies work again? Right.
That's
So that's your hobby now.
Yeah. So I'm Googling everything about, is this supposed to happen? What are you doing? So yeah, that's what I'm into. Google on newborns again.
I'm sorry. No, congratulations. Not
Yes,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you. Yes,
Congratulations. That's awesome. And his
Thank you.
name?
Israel.
Israel. Awesome. What are your other 2 boys' names?
My oldest is 9. His name is Judah. My middle is 7, Zion. And then the youngest is Israel.
I see a thread there.
Yeah,
That's
there's a
good.
theme.
Yeah,
There's
you
a
got
theme.
the Bible Jesus thing even in those names right there. Noah, how about you? Let's see. Hopefully one of the things, this is outside of job and family, because you've been married now for how many days?
A month today.
A month today. Awesome. I will forever remember your birthday because it was on my birthday if it was a month ago today. So congratulations. But anything you're into right now that people might find interesting?
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think. I really enjoy just playing soccer. It's the simple things too. Like I tend to lean towards just simple things. Playing soccer or basketball and soccer kind of switch because my father-in-law is really into basketball, but it varies. Art, sports. I mean, my wife and I are just watching a TV show that she's got me hooked on. So, I mean, if we could just sit around and watch that, that'd be cool too.
She'd be okay with that right now.
But
Good. Well, last question for you. I would like to know what's one thing that's given you joy this week? And Noah, I'm going to start with you this time. What's one thing that's given you joy this week?
I guess I really enjoy just knowing that every time I wake up, I am married to my best friend, and I've known her for 5 years now. But it's such a blessing to know what we've gone through and to know that we're here today, and it's just really refreshing and really cool knowing that I'm married now, and we moved into our apartment somewhat recently, and so that sense of independence with my wife, and
That's a good answer. Corey's probably going to steal that answer too if he's a smart guy. We'll see. So Corey, besides your wife, which I know would be at the top of the list, what has brought you joy this week?
That's a good question. Actually, so my oldest 2 are playing baseball, and that's a lot of fun to go watch them play baseball. They had a game today, and they were all excited, and they played pretty well and had a lot of fun. And so just seeing them have fun and seeing the looks on their face, after the game, that's fun. But when you talk about real deep joy, is interesting. I just asked them, I think it was yesterday, who they are. And my oldest said, I'm a child of God. And that gives me joy that at that young age, he knows his identity is in Christ and it's not in what people say or think. Yep. And that, kind of like I talked about earlier, if I can know Jesus and my kids can know Jesus, I'll be happy. And so that gave me some joy this week.
That's awesome. That should give you joy. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for being willing to join for this conversation and for being willing to allow your stories to be told through the podcast and through the magazine. And I know it will be an encouragement to others, just like it's been an encouragement to me. And thanks to all of you for listening to the Grace Story podcast. Our music was written and produced by Dr. Wally Brath, Assistant Professor of Worship Arts at Grace College. Thanks to our co-producers, Andrew Palladino and Rick Neer. And as always, if you can do a huge favor and rate or comment this podcast wherever you got it from, we would be so grateful. Until next time, live your best grace story today.